Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, it is a depressing movie to talk about. It is Joker, Folie, Deux, episode 38 of the podcast. We are going to get into the weeds. Joker, Folie, Deux, the much-anticipated sequel to the critically acclaimed first movie. I don't know. I mean, we got a Best Actor win out of it. Anyways, a sequel that I, to be honest, didn't really care if it came out, but I've also seen lots of other things that I will talk about, and I gotta be honest, I'm on a bit of a good streak right now of audiences at the movies. A couple times in the Joker there were annoying things that happened, but like when I saw the Batman, totally dead silent audience. Everyone was so just intrigued. I saw a movie called The Wild Robot, which was a really good audience as well. I don't know, I'm just on a bit of a hot streak. It's like the last 4 movies I've seen have all been really respectful and nice crowds, other than a couple times in Joker, the guy in front of me kept taking pictures and trying to record moments of the movie. I get that it's the Monday night IMAX fan premiere or whatever, because I went to an early screening earlier this week, but it was just strange. I don't really get the needing to take a photo in like the middle of the movie. Or actually a really funny moment at the start was a woman 2 seats over from me went to take a picture at the start of the movie or a video of the opening of the movie, but her flash was on, and it just, oh my god, she snapped her phone down into her bag so quickly. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's been a good couple weeks of theater going experiences. I've been seeing so much stuff, and yesterday I mean I made a video about it today for all my social media, but last night I had to do some groceries after the gym, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go look at the Walmart movie bin, like the $5 movie bin. So usually I'll look at like 4 movies and get overwhelmed and say I can't do this right now, but I said, you know what, tonight I'm gonna put 20 minutes into just looking into this bin, and holy, I got some great deals. I got Mad Max Fury Road for $5. I got Saving Private Ryan for $8. Twister for $8. All of these on Blu-ray. Then I got a double feature of Braveheart and Gladiator for $8. So $32 altogether, which is usually in Canada the price of most 4K movies. I want to say like $30 to $50, depending on if it has a digital code or also the Blu-ray disc in it. So that was just amazing. I also finished God Emperor of Dune last weekend. It was okay. You know what? It was, I can't remember if I talked about it last week, but just the further I get away from having finished the book, the more just complex that book was. Like, I still am so much about it. Like, damn, that book was such a different vibe from the first 2. But I've started Heretics of Dune this week. It's okay so far. I'm about 60 or 70 pages in, and it's fine. I think the further away from Paul Atreides and that like first book of Dune, and the further away from kind of the movies, the less interesting it gets, or like a little more philosophical rather than ecological and like really science fiction. So I don't know. I am trying to finish all 6 of the books before the Dune Prophecy TV show comes out on November 17th, I want to say. So I feel bad because I'm kind of cheating with these 2 books. I got the audiobook for Heretics of Dune, so I'm going to listen to the audiobook as I'm reading to keep me on pace, so I read it faster, because if I'm not interested in a book, my mind will just wander and it'll take me ages to read. This was my biggest kind of weakness during my university studies, is during my readings, if I didn't find the material interesting, my mind would just wander. So I've got the audiobook on Audible. I joined for like 3 months for $7 or whatever, which isn't terrible. So I got that one. I got Chapter House Dune, which is the final one. I will finish both probably by the end of October. So you know what? It's been a very good week. Once again, I mentioned it last week when I was recording, and I recorded that on the Friday. The downloads on the podcast have been really good and like bumping up recently and getting lots of messages and engagement on YouTube. Well, on Sunday, I posted a short on YouTube. It got like 33,000 views, and now I have 63 subscribers on YouTube. So it again, I don't know, it's just good omens and good vibes. So it's been a great couple weeks, and I'm very much looking forward to our discussion today. Before we get into Joker, Folie, Deux, of course, we're going to have the news, and then after Joker talk, we will have what else I watched. Of course, there are timestamps below in the episode description, whether you're on YouTube or any of the streamers. You can see the chapters of the episode. If you want to just hear the news, you want to avoid all Joker talk because you haven't seen the sequel yet, totally get it. You can go to What Else I Watched, lots of fun stuff. Or if you're fine with just the non-spoilers, you can stick to that and skip the spoilers for Joker. I keep it very non-spoilery and the non-spoiler talk. Before all that, let's get into the news because there is lots to talk about. Well, this first piece of news kind of came out of nowhere. I had heard absolutely zero rumblings about this, but this comes from USA Today, who say Ronan Day-Lewis, Daniel's son, just brought his dad out of retirement for Anemone movies. So Daniel Day-Lewis, he's returned to acting. He retired in 2017. He's a three-time Best Actor Oscar winner. Many people consider him to be the greatest male actor of all time. Well, his son is directing, I think it's his son Ronan's first directorial, it's his directorial debut. So the script was co-written by the actor and his son and explores the intricate relationships between fathers, sons, and brothers and the dynamics of familial bonds. So Daniel Day-Lewis is only 67 years old, and he's won an Oscar for My Left Foot, There Will Be Blood, and Lincoln. It's very interesting that this is the movie that got him out of retirement. I mean, it makes sense. If you and your son had worked on a project and it's a very personal story to them, it's kind of cool that he's coming back after 7 years now. He's back at it. There was a picture of him on set this week driving a Vespa. Might have to do a Daniel Day-Lewis marathon soon, because he's just, every movie I've seen with him, he's just insane. There Will Be Blood. Lincoln was really good. That was 2013. But yeah, big news. Daniel Day-Lewis is back. In other very good news that I posted about on my Instagram as well, made me very excited, but The Robins origin story dynamic duo is in the works with DC Studios, WBPA, and 6th and Idaho, movie to be made with puppetry animation. So the 6th and Idaho movie, scripted by Matthew Aldrich, is being made by a new animation studio out of New Orleans called Swaybox, and the studio's husband and wife creators Arthur Mintz and Teresa Anderson. Mintz will direct the movie, which follows the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, aka The Robins. Swaybox uses a technology known as Momo animation, or Mamo. It's a cross between CGI animation, practical elements of stop motion, as well as live action real-time performance. There's tons of videos online of this technique, and I highly suggest people go check it out. It's mesmerizing. It looks really cool. At first I had only read dynamic duos animated movie. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And then I watched the videos. You know what? This could be very interesting, and it seems like something different. So DC Studios, James Gunn and Peter Safran, Swaybox Studios, Anderson, and 6th and Idaho's Matt Reeves are producers on Dynamic Duo. Executive producers include Michael Uzlan. Matt Reeves said, I've wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be a dynamic duo, an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families is a dream. This just sounds like a home run for me. It's an inventive way of telling a story, and I mean, you can't say, oh, it's another superhero movie, because it's going to be something completely different. The story is the story. It is a superhero story, but the delivery method is going to be very interesting in my eyes. And like I said, after watching the video of them in the process making, I'm not sure what the movie was called, but I watched a 5-minute, compilation of kind of what this puppetry CGI type mixing looks like. Very cool, because it doesn't just look like them all standing together, and it's not just traditional stop motion. It's very action, dynamic, lots of movement and big movement that I don't know. I think this could be very cool for a superhero film with the two Robins, where they're, going to be beating up bad guys and doing jumps. They're both, very dynamic, and the flying Graysons. So it just sounds really cool. And I like that it's not really a story focused on Batman. It looks like it's just going to be the dynamic duo and the two of them maybe trying to get out of Batman's shadow and realizing they're a lot more similar than they thought, even though one of them replaced the other. So I like that. And this is just what I was thinking about this week, but I'm curious if whoever is voicing the two performers will be playing the live action versions, because we know there's a Batman the Brave and the Bold movie coming, which is Damian Wayne and Batman, Bruce Wayne Batman. So that's a father and son movie, but Damian Wayne is, the fourth Robin, sometimes the fifth, depending on the timeline. So are we going to see a live action Nightwing and Jason Todd Robin eventually with the voice actors who play them in this project? Because as we know from Creature Commandos, if you voice a character in the DC universe, James Gunn said they're most likely going to play them in live action. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see, is this just a one-off project, or is this just going to be a DC animated type thing? Well, not really animated, but a DC Studios separate branch and not really going to be involved in the live action universe. So far, I'm liking the kind of variety of projects that DC are announcing, and I like how much Matt Reeves is really getting involved in Batman stuff. He's got his two Batman movies, The Penguin, Caped Crusader, which is on Amazon, which I thought was brilliant. Oh my god, just in the weeks after watching that, I'm like, damn, that was such a good show, and I don't get all these leeches that are like, oh, they changed Penguin to a woman. Who cares? I get that maybe the story isn't for everyone because it's not so much like the animated series where every episode is a different problem. Whoops, sorry, just hit my dog in the stomach. She's lying on my feet after our big walk. But yeah, this is really cool news, and I'm looking forward to this. All right, well, here's a bit of a goofy gossip story. Variety this week was talking to the Men in Black director who says, Will Smith is a farter. One fart was so bad, we evacuated the stage for about 3 hours, and that's incredible. So Men in Black director Barry Sonnenfeld appeared on the Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa podcast and revealed that on the set of the 1997 action comedy Men in Black, they once had to evacuate for about 3 hours because Will Smith farted. The incident is said to have occurred during the scene in which Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are in a transforming car that travels at hyperspeeds and flips over. In order to film the sequence, the two actors had to be hermetically sealed in the pod that was being used for the car. Quote, there are locks to prevent it from opening and falling. I say, roll camera, and I hear Will Smith go, oh Jesus, so sorry Tommy, so sorry. Baz, get the ladder, and you hear Tommy saying, that's fine Will, no worries Will, don't worry Will, anyway, I don't know what's gone on, right? So we race the ladder over. Yeah, Tommy reaches his leg out as the ladder is coming over, races down the stairs, and what happened was Will Smith is a farter. It's just some people are, and you really don't want to be inside a very small, hermetically sealed space with a Will Smith fart. You don't even want to be sitting next to him at the Disney Ranch. We evacuated the stage for about 3 hours, and that's incredible. No, he's, a lovely guy, just he farts. Some do, some don't. This is making so many waves this week. I think Will Smith is being perma-banned in Hollywood, and they're using his farting against him now. Just crazy. I thought that was an Onion article or something, because where is this being talked about? The Kelly Ripa podcast? What? I don't even know anymore. I mean, Will Smith, I've barely seen anything really involving him in the last couple years since the slap. Am I mistaken? I feel like he's done something. I just don't remember, but I feel like he's kind of been banished a bit. I mean, he's a Scientologist, if I'm not mistaken, so, that can't be that bad that we have one less knocking around Hollywood, but what a story. And I would pay so much money to see a behind the scenes footage of Tommy Lee Jones telling Will Smith, it's okay you farted, and then immediately reaching for the ladder. Anyways, a bit of a goofy story, but let's move on to some brand new set photos that are coming from Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. First look. So this will be an Amazon show, and it is under Sony, which for me, oh boy. It's Sony. Okay. I don't trust Sony with anything anymore. I think the only Sony thing that I've liked is Anyone But You with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, and even that was fine. It wasn't mind-blowing. I thought Hitman was a better movie than that. 2 set photos of Nicolas Cage on set. Amy Pascal talked about it a little bit this week. I'm not sure what event she was at, but she talked about it, and I don't know, it looks fine. Is the show going to be in black and white like he is in the Spider-Verse cartoons? I just think, why? Why are we doing this? I don't think we need a Spider-Man Noir show. I think I've talked about it before and I was initially excited, but the more I think about it, I'm just like, nah, I'm okay, especially at Sony. I just think Sony makes a lot of mediocre Spider-Man stuff, but maybe this is a little bit of a loophole for them that they can make a mainline Spider-Man, even though it's not Peter Parker. He's just in a trench coat. It just looks like Nicolas Cage. There's nothing particularly interesting about him. He's not wearing a mask or anything like that. Yeah, I'm curious. What do you guys think? If for people who saw the Spider-Verse movies, if you got a choice to see any of the characters in live action, whether it be Miles Morales, Peter B. Parker, Peter Porker, what's the Spider-Pig's name? I don't know. If you could pick any of the Spider-Verse characters to get a live action adaptation, who would it be and why? I really am curious, but I would have done Spider-Man 2099, Miguel, what's his name? That would have been a more compelling story to me, but I'd be fine to just get a third Spider-Verse movie as well, but I know those guys are now working on their Nightfall. What's the movie with Ryan Gosling and Sandra Huller called? I can't remember. I saw a couple set photos this week. Looks fun. I like Lord and Miller. But anyways, I say we cap off a news with a Megalopolis check. Let's see how Megalopolis is doing in the box office. So since my episode last week, there's still a plethora of reviews and reactions. Some people love it for how bad it is. Some people hate it for how terrible it is. I enjoyed it, but it's a terrible movie. I would watch it again, but I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece of our time or whatever. I think think if any other director made this movie, there would be zero discussion about it. I think only because it's Francis Ford Coppola, he gets a pass, which is interesting. I don't know. I think if any other director made this, they would be put in director jail so fast, but because it's self-financed and it's him, he's going to get a pass, and people just kind of, I don't know, suck up and kiss his ass a little bit. But anyways, let's check Megalopolis box office. We are on Box Office Mojo. So domestically, $4,849,319. Yikes. Internationally, $1,385,000. Worldwide, $6.2 million. So it is flopping. I have only seen the words Megaflopolis everywhere this week. It is one of the probably worst box office runs I have seen in a long time. Considering a $120 million budget, it's pulled in $6.2 million. Yikes, man. I think it's not going to do well. And let me just put a little bit of a caveat on all of this. It's not meant to be a box office success. This is a passion project where he just wanted to complete the movie to prove that he could. And he did. He did. As always, it was a shitty production, and he treated people like shit on it. He harassed people. Plenty of people were quitting and calling it the most nuts production and disrespectful workplace they've ever been in. He got it out, and I hope it bombs. It deserves to bomb, because I do think Francis Ford Coppola seems like a pretty shitty dude, and I'm happy that his movie is bombing, but we got to see it, so that's something. Anyways, I think we should wrap up the news. Let's move on to Joker, Folie. As I said, timestamps below. You can listen to the non-spoiler section. I don't reveal anything that's not in the trailers. I rewatch the trailers just to make sure. Let's get into it. Joker, Folie à Deux. Joker, Folie à Deux is a 2024 musical thriller. Well, a musical depending on who you ask, because the people who made the movie say it's not a musical, and yet I watched a musical. So it is 2 hours and 19 minutes. The Googles in a nutshell is alienated, extreme, and hallucinatory. It currently has dropped to 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was at about 58 or 59 a week ago before it came out, and now it's at 44 and slowly dropping. I think it has 50% on Metacritic, a 5.6 rating on IMDb. Its user rating on Letterboxd is 2.7 average, so it's pretty mixed to negative, I would say. Below mixed. 50% and above is mixed. That's half and half. That's math. Yeah, not doing too well. It is, of course, directed by Todd Phillips, who people would know from the Hangover movies or Due Date. The music is by Hildur Guðnadóttir, who did the music of the first one, a soundtrack I really love. I think the soundtrack not as strong in this one, and I'm not going to talk about it in my review because I just didn't write any notes and I have so much else to talk about. The budget for the movie, $200 million. I don't think it's going to do as well as the first one. I read online that it was definitely going to be a drop from its box office opening weekend at least, and I think it's projected to not do, I think it's going to do like 140 million opening weekend, but it's not as good as the first one. The first one did remarkably well and has better reviews than this one as well. So I don't know, maybe some word of mouth. Way too long of a movie for what is actually said in this film, but the synopsis of the film is, while struggling with his dual identity, Arthur Fleck not only stumbles upon true love, but also finds the music that's always been inside him. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck / Joker, Lady Gaga as Lee Quinzel, Brendan Gleeson as Jackie, Catherine Keener as Marianne Stewart, Zazie Beetz as Sophie Dumond, Steve Coogan as Patty Mayers, Harry Lottie as Harvey Dent, Lee Gill as Gary Puddles, and Bill Smitrovich as Judge Herman Rothwax. All right, Joker is back, not with a bang, but with another waste of comic book characters filled with some awful dialogue, awful pacing, and self-loathing storytelling. As you can tell, I did not like this movie. Look, I wasn't a fan of the first Joker movie. I gave it the same Letterboxd rating as this one. It just seems like a waste of comic book characters. There's clearly an original story you want to tell that really doesn't need the crutch of hiding under the Batman IP and killing Batman's parents in the first movie. It's totally boring. This one, even worse than the first for me. If I had to pick a favorite, I would rather watch the first one than this one, even though I think they are exactly the same quality. But as we do with every review, let's start with the performances, because I think a lot of people would have been intrigued by the fact that Harley Quinn is played by Lady Gaga. But let's start with the lead of our film, Joaquin Phoenix as Joker / Arthur Fleck. He's fine. He's definitely not as good as the first one. He again lost all of that weight, which I watched Nando V Movies YouTube review of this, and he was a lot more positive about the movie. I think he enjoyed it a lot more than I did, which is fine. Like, I'm not saying, oh, if you enjoy this, you're scum. Enjoy what movies you want to enjoy, you know what I mean? But I would agree with what Nando said. I don't think he had to lose the weight. Joaquin Phoenix, I also think the story kind of pulls away from him in this one. It just doesn't feel like there's much of a character arc or characterization in this of Arthur Fleck / Joker, and what we do see is really the same as the first one. He's, at least in the first one, Joaquin Phoenix's performance and the story of him was interesting, and that was really the only thing of the movie that I liked other than its visuals and its music. But in this one, I'm not even interested in what's happening to him half the time. Like, he's not nearly as interesting as the first one, but he's still not bad in this. I mean, I think he has one very bad scene that I'm gonna wait till spoilers to talk about, because I don't know, if you didn't watch the trailer, I don't want to give away what that scene is, but otherwise he's fine. Other than that bad scene, I think his singing, not particularly good, to be honest, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. His performance is really, I would say, let down by a script that's extremely hollow, which brings me to Lady Gaga as Lee Quinzel, or Harley Quinn is her full name. I don't know, mostly good? Not even. She's fine as well. I think that's what really bothers me about this movie, is it's so much of it is just okay, fine. Like, the performances are fine, whereas the script and the story itself are just bad and dull and bland. But she's really wasted in this, and like I said, a lot of people probably would have been drawn to this movie by the fact that they're adding someone who has really proven herself as an actress in the last few years with House of Gucci, A Star is Born. I still remember her performance with Bradley Cooper, which I thought they were going to make out on stage, but she has some serious acting chops, but it's very mismatched with Phillips's vision of what he wants this movie to be. Brendan Gleeson is Jackie. He's a prison guard in this film. I think he's actually good in this. For what he's doing, I think he is fine. In every scene he's in, I'm actually interested. It's when it pulls away from him and Arthur Fleck that the movie becomes less interesting. Like, my favorite scenes were Arthur Fleck and Jackie interacting, because they have this very interesting dynamic within Arkham, and that's where a lot of the interesting stuff in the film is in Arkham. It's when it gets to the courtroom that the movie becomes less interesting and kind of not much happening and a little bit hollow, which, you know, speaking of the courtroom, we get Harry Lottie as Harvey Dent. Again, complete waste of a Batman character. He's not Harvey Dent in this. He is generic lawyer. He's not Two-Face. There's nothing Harvey Dent-y about this. Can I say that as an adjective? There's nothing inherently Harvey Dent about his performance or his characterization. He's literally just speaking in a low voice the whole time. I think he doesn't give in a particularly remarkable performance, which like everyone in this movie, I mean, everyone is just kind of meh, fine. Like, Brendan Gleeson was really the only one I enjoyed. It just feels like personally, I was really excited to see Lady Gaga in this as Harley Quinn, and she just feels kind of wasted. I think a follow-up movie to Joker with Joaquin Phoenix just feels like another wasted opportunity. Everyone in this movie is just kind of meh. It's just weighed down by a script that's so bland and empty. The story itself, let's move to the story itself. Very underwhelming. I was excited to see how they could improve on the first one, because I think the first story was very nothingness and scared to commit to the comic bookness or the fact that you're telling this in a Batman world. How are you going to maybe embrace it, and you'll win over some more fans from the first one? Whereas I think a lot of the criticism that I had of the first one was there is no need to put this under the Batman IP. I feel the exact same as this one, and this movie was just very underwhelming. It struggles to find a rhythm. I think the opening 20 to 30 minutes, it kind of feels like we're trying to find our footing and, okay, what is this story trying to do? What is the problem we're facing? And it feels like certain scenes are finding that, but then they're disrupted, and we're just kind of being shot around to different things happening. Not even things happening, just walking around with people where nothing's really happening. And when Joaquin Phoenix and Jackie go to the singing class, it's interesting, and you see Arthur Fleck and Jackie kind of do get along, even though they do have this interesting dynamic, because one of them is a prison guard and the other one's a prisoner who's about to go to trial. There is still kind of like a weird friendship relationship there, and that's interesting. It's when we get to Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga interacting as Joker and Harley Quinn, I actually found the movie didn't work for me. I wasn't that interested, and it just felt very easy. Let's just give them kind of breadcrumbs of the Joker and Harley Quinn dynamic, and it never really found its footing for me, and it never really let them explore the roles. They are very committed, I'll give them that. The performers are very committed. Everyone is very committed in this, and nobody is phoning it in, which I really appreciated. It's just, there's no real rhythm to this entire movie. We're kind of just bouncing back and forth between the courthouse and Arkham every scene for 99% of the movie. The opening of the film, I will say, without saying what it is, and I'm not sure if people know what the opening of the film is, at least that felt kind of imaginative and trying to, introduce something else under the Warner Brothers banner and something that was different from the first film. I appreciated that. But after that opening scene, the movie just kind of feels meandering and wandering around, and Todd Phillips isn't sure what story he actually wants to tell in a sequel. Like, this only really exists because the first one had such a big reception box office wise, and it did extremely well at the box office and was talked about at the Oscars. The whole middle portion of the movie where he meets Harley Quinn, I'd say they meet about 40 minutes into the movie, and that's in the trailers. Like, it's just, I really liked the opening portions where we're in Arkham Asylum, and again, it's just Joker or Arthur Fleck and Jackie interacting, and then you get to meet Harley, or Lee. It's very weird that they call her Lee in this. I don't get it. Just call her Harley. We all came to see Harley Quinn. Just call her Harley. The trial begins, and all of a sudden, the intensity and it just becomes very bland. And it's just, I get that they were like, well, what if we did a courtroom drama because he did all these awful things in the first one? The progression of the story, it does make sense. You're putting Arthur on trial to kind of reflect on the first film and these terrible things and what he's commenting on, because the first movie is all about mental health and the abandonment of people with mental health issues. And I'll give them credit. It does seem like, or I'll defend them a little bit. I do think this movie is a very natural progression of the first film, but its execution is where the problem lies. It's basically a drawn out speech of the first movie. When Arthur Fleck is giving that speech on the Murray Show at the end talking about society, this movie is kind of just 2 hours and 19 minutes of that speech, really, of Arthur and everybody else reflecting on, is Arthur Fleck actually mentally unstable and have a split personality, or is he the Joker and is he actually evil? The synopsis of the film talks about that he's struggling with a dual personality, so it kind of just takes the whole mystery. Like, what is this movie trying to prove? Like, look, nothing really feels like it's working, and we're just kind of stuck between Arkham and the trial, and it's so frustrating. Just a lot of going over the first film and watching Arthur do nothing, smoke cigarettes, and dance around. It's more of, I saw a really good Letterboxd. I can't remember who posted it. I can't remember if I liked it either, and I don't feel like looking for it now, but they called this an exhibition rather than like an actual movie. It does feel like kind of just an exhibition of aesthetics and weight loss to get into characters, which I don't find really healthy in movies. I don't think that's a good idea, and I think Nando V Movies made a really good point in his review that this whole losing a bunch of weight for this role, kind of pointless and not necessary. Joker doesn't need to be 40 pounds and skinny. This movie, it kind of just feels like Todd Phillips giving a big middle finger to the first film and the people who worship Arthur/Joker, saying he's not someone who should be a symbol. He's just evil. We see him largely away from his supporters because, again, he's in jail and he's going on trial in this film, so he's not interacting with the public. I think more Harley Quinn or Lee Quinzel is the representation of his supporters, and like Joker, like people that are perhaps a little bit evil and they're fanatical supporters. And the fact that maybe their supporters are more committed to this idea of the Joker than the person is themselves. I don't know. It's just, we see him largely away from his supporters in this movie, which I think there could be something interesting there with how he perceives himself versus how his supporters perceive him and what do they think he represents. It often felt like this movie was really just trying to say Todd Phillips to the people who worship Joker in the first movie, even if he is mentally unstable and mentally ill, there's no excuse for the evil that he did, and he shouldn't be worshipped. But also, I'll save a few moments where I think this is specifically said in spoilers, but it does feel like Todd Phillips really, a lot of his writing in this movie is just a direct reply to the first movie of like, hey, incels and nut jobs, I don't know why you guys are falling in love with this character because he's kind of crazy and he did these terrible things. And if you feel that you're maybe going through a mental health crisis, there is help out there. And yes, there are problems there's underfunding and there's a lack of support for a lot of people with mental health issues, but he's not trying to create a martyr of Joker and trying to make him this, incel symbol. I think Todd Phillips is honestly upset with the reaction that he got from his first movie, and it's not what he expected this movie was going to be. But anyways, I kind of want to pull away from Todd Phillips. I just quickly about the directing, I guess. Nothing special in this movie for me. I don't think Todd Phillips is particularly a good director. I think he's made one movie I've enjoyed overall, and that was the first Hangover movie. Otherwise, I find his movies fine. Like nothing. I don't think he's an extremely standout director. That's not where the things I enjoyed about this movie don't come from his directing. But let's talk about the musical aspect. The fact that Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, everyone involved refuses to say that this movie is a musical. Instead, the songs are just explaining how the characters are feeling. That's what a musical is, bozo. This movie is absolutely a musical. There are musical numbers where people break out singing, whether it's hallucinating the songs or not. That doesn't matter. It's still the musical numbers are commenting on the story and what the characters are feeling. I guess, is it a jukebox musical where it's not all I think there's only one original song that Lady Gaga wrote for this. Otherwise, it is all jukebox songs. And I'm not a huge musical expert, but from what I understand, a jukebox musical is singing songs that you didn't create and they're just popular songs from outside of the movie. I took one film course specifically on musicals. I really enjoyed it. Like Meet Me in St. Louis, Singing in the Rain, classic films like that. I love Singing in the Rain. I've seen it numerous times and I love that movie a lot. But anyways, the musical aspect, that was something that actually made me a little bit excited after seeing the first trailer and hearing that, oh, it's going to be a musical. I thought, you know what? At least they're trying to take it into a new direction, or they're trying to creatively kind of spice it up. Absolute waste of an opportunity, because the musical portions are so disruptive to the story. And like I mentioned before, this is already a story that kind of struggles to find its footing for a large portion until it gets to the courtroom stuff. Then it just becomes straight up boring. And I hate calling movies boring because it's just such a simplification, but sometimes you just gotta call a spade a spade. This movie is straight up boring. It lacks a message or anything really happening. It's more of just, like that person on Letterboxd said, it's more an exhibition of someone's physical transformation into Joker. And this movie is just visually interesting. It has nothing to say, but the musical aspect, the songs are so disruptive. I didn't particularly find any of the songs that they picked interesting, and it's weird to say, but the singing is not good in this. Like, I don't think the composition and the singing is good in this, which is wild to say because I really do enjoy Lady Gaga as a singer. I think she's got a lot of bangers. Like, I grew up with Lady Gaga's kind of breakthrough Poker Face and Let's Dance banger. I remember that. And she's actually not very good in this either, but I don't think it's her fault. I think it's a lot of the choice of the keys for the songs and the composition. It just doesn't really all mix well. And I think Joaquin Phoenix, it feels bad to say this, but Joaquin Phoenix isn't a good singer in this. I mean, he played Johnny Cash in Walk the Line, and he was great in that. But in this, his singing is pretty mediocre / subpar. And Lady Gaga as well. I think they're both just kind of, I mean, their performances in general are very underwhelming because of the script and what they're given to do. They're not really given anything dynamic to do. It's kind of just all very basic and boring. And their performances with the songs are kind of bland as well. There's one song that I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting into this. This is a little interesting, but otherwise, nothing great. And Joaquin Phoenix, in most of the songs, it's hard to hear. Like, he's inaudible in a lot of the songs, which is just really, really frustrating. Again, really weird choices made in this film that just, I don't know, I don't get how executives got on board with this, that you have a once-in-a-lifetime singer in Lady Gaga, and she feels very wasted in this. I don't know, just weird choices, and it brings me to my biggest problem with these films is putting this under the Batman IP. Putting this in the Batman world in Gotham City, I think it's completely wasted because I think Todd Phillips could have just made a Scorsese-type movie about a guy that suffers from mental health issues and kills people as part of his issues and his performance as a stand-up comedian. You can just make a Scorsese inspired film. You don't need to make it a Joker film. There's really nothing Batman Jokery about any of this. Even the Harley Quinn stuff in this is so minute, and it's literally breadcrumbs of Harley Quinn-ness. I just don't understand, and I'll get more into that in spoilers, specifically with Harvey Dent, but there's nothing about this movie where I'm like, oh, this is such an interesting take on these characters from the world of Batman. And I get it. I think a lot of people are correct, and a lot of people that like Christopher Nolan and Matt Reeves have said, why do we keep getting Batman things? Because it's kind of like Shakespeare, where you can get just all this variety of adaptations and versions of the character, and people love to see those different versions. And I have to say that Todd Phillips' version of Joker, apart from Jared Leto, is my least favorite, easily. I think the first film, again, I was so bothered by all of the Wayne family stuff, just felt so stupid. I hate the fact that Joker is like 40 years older than Bruce Wayne. I don't know, it all just feels like, what's the point? I understand grounding characters in reality. In the Nolan universe and the Reeves universe, I think it works perfectly. You're still telling a very comic booky story, but with just grounded elements. This feels like what could be an interesting movie, but it's kind of held back by the fact that it's put in this comic book universe. And it feels like Todd Phillips is scared to embrace a comic book story, and he's hiding a mediocre script behind an IP and drawing in audiences by the fact that it is Joker. I don't know. I'm curious. What do people think? Like, are these movies really Joker movies? Like, what is the Joker aspect of this? I don't think it is a Joker movie. I think it's just someone struggling in a mental health crisis. The fact that they have split personality and they commit these crimes, I think that could have just been an interesting movie on its own. But Todd Phillips is scared that nobody's going to see it, so he hides it behind the banner and the IP. It's weird. The whole idea of these movies feel extremely derivative as well. Like, it's just, these are just Marty Scorsese movies, but way worse. They just feel like fan films of Marty Scorsese movies. If you want to make a Marty Scorsese type movie, just do that, Todd Phillips. People, I think, would appreciate an original story anyways. There's lots of great original ideas coming out. Who knows? Go pitch it around town. Go pitch it to A24. Pitch it to Warner Brothers. Somebody might make it. You have some juice. You know, you made the Hangover movies, and they might be intrigued to listen to you, that you're willing to take this into, or your career into another direction, and talk to Joaquin Phoenix about it, that he might be interested in as well. And I feel like I'm being a bit of a Batman defender right now, just because he is my favorite character in any type of media. Batman is absolutely my favorite character in anything. I have a Batman tattoo sleeve. I love Batman so much, and I love Joker as a character. I never get tired of seeing Joker in adaptations of Batman. Even if they're not the main villain, I still think if there's Batman, there does need to be Joker most of the time. But also, contrary to that, if there is a Joker, there needs to be Batman. They are kind of the yin and yang that work so well. And the fact that Bruce Wayne is 40 years old, there's nothing about the Wayne family in this movie. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but yeah, it just really bothered me. The dialogue is just as bad in this movie as the first one. I don't know. That just, I've already kind of talked about how flawed the script is, specifically the story. Joaquin Phoenix says, "That's all, folks," like a Looney Tunes style, "That's all, folks," and it was literally one of the worst moments of the movie. There's a lot of bad lines in this one, just like the first one, where it's like, oh, society bad, laugh out loud bad. Like, it's a really bad script that's just incel fuel. But look, I don't want to end the non-spoiler discussion without saying something positive about the movie. Looks wise, absolutely a gorgeous movie. It's one of my favorite looking movies this year. Just like the first one, I loved how the first one looked and sounded. The soundtrack of the first one was mesmerizing. Lawrence Sher does just as good of a job in this one with the cinematography. He adds a whole layer of quality to such a dull and boring screenplay. At least there is visual elements that you can really enjoy in this film and how good it looks. I mean, Oscar nominations wise, if this film was going to get any Oscar nominations, which I do not think it will. I would put money on that. I don't think Joker Folie is going to get a single Oscar nomination. Definitely not acting ones. I saw someone post on Reddit r/Oscars race supporting actress update, and they put Lady Gaga in there, and everyone in the comments just eviscerated them. Like, did you watch a different movie than all of us? And I would agree. I don't think there's going to be any Oscar nominations from this in general. If there were, though, let me finish that thought. If there were, maybe cinematography. That is the only one, because Lawrence Sher does does such a phenomenal job. And I'm sad that the score kind of plays less of a role in this one and Gotham City in general, because I don't know, Gotham in the first one, it's not really Gotham. Gotham is just kind of like 70s, 80s New York, but it doesn't really feel like the world is part of this movie. It's more just Arkham in the courtroom. I don't know. I think that's about all the positives I have, is just the visuals, is it? But look, otherwise, I'm going to wrap up the non-spoiler section. Overall thoughts, and I will reveal my Letterboxd rating. This is a shallow, messageless, bland, pointless sequel that, because of the financial success, this is why this was made. There's absolutely no reason for a Joker 2 other than the fact that the first one made over $1 billion, I think. Even 3 days after seeing this, so I'm recording this on Thursday. I saw this Monday night at the IMAX preview, which it looked amazing in IMAX. Let me say that as well. If you are going to see it in IMAX, at least make it look good in IMAX. But I'm honestly struggling to remember large portions of this film and think I will need to see it again maybe, because there's just so much to forget about this movie and nothing happens. If I did see it a second time, I would watch it again in IMAX just to appreciate the visuals. I would not recommend Joker 2. There's better movies in theaters, 1000%. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, the same rating as the first one, but if I had to pick one or the other, I would rather watch the first Joker movie. Same as the first, because it feels largely the same story-wise, and it has even less of a message than the first film. So that's been Joker, Folie. Let's move on to the spoiler section. Okay, spoilers for Joker 2, Joker Folie, which means I think crazy for 2 is what that translates to. I took French. You know, I'm Canadian. I had to take French in school. Not that it helped me at all, but I want to just talk briefly. I guess I had two positives. The opening of the film was creative to me, and the visuals. But so that opening of the film, it starts with actually an animated short. I'm not sure if that was revealed before, but it starts with an animated short called Me and My Shadow. I'll give the movie credit. That at least felt like something creative, and the fact that it's a Warner Brothers movie, it's kind of like a Looney Tunes short. I kind of like that. I mean, it's succinct. It's clearly setting up like the kind of the problem of the movie of, is Arthur Fleck a split personality, or is he actually the Joker, or is this other personality to blame rather than Arthur than the Joker? I don't know. It was an interesting way to set up the story, but at the same time, the trailers just kind of point to the fact that Arthur has a split personality and he shouldn't be blamed for this. So what's really the problem or the issue we're trying to solve in this film? The film is just kind of repeating itself over and over of going to trial and arguing whether he has a split personality or not, which it's clear he does, but then he kind of says at the end of the movie that he doesn't, and he killed 6 people even though he's on trial for 5. He admits to killing his mother. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a very frustrating movie. Like, it's not even bad like Megalopolis. Megalopolis was a piece of shit movie that was so terrible, but it's so much fun to watch because it's like a fever dream. Like, this is one of the craziest movies I've ever seen. Whereas this movie is just frustrating to watch because it's so mediocre. It's so messageless. What's it trying to say about mental health? Like, mental health is bad, and if you don't get help, people are going to do terrible things. I don't think that's a good message. Like, it's just like the first movie. I don't get it. This movie is just such a clear middle finger, clear fuck you to the first movie's fans, saying, I don't want this movie to be worshipped, and it's Todd Phillips just like regretting his choice and having to make a reply. It reminds me so much of Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune Messiah because people were worshiping Paul Atreides after the first book. So he wrote Dune Messiah as an epilogue to say, Paul Atreides is a flawed person and you should not worship him. But the execution of this is so bland and pointless. Anyways, I want to talk about the one scene that I thought Joaquin Phoenix was the absolute worst in. He decides to represent himself in the trial, and his first incident where Gary is his witness and he calls him to the bench, he puts on this voice the entire scene where he's speaking to Gary, where he's like, well, I do say, like an old-timey lawyer transatlantic accent voice, and it's just a really odd acting choice. I think I don't very often talk about like acting choices or specific choices. I'm just here to critique. It was very strange and just felt very out of place in the film of, oh, he's just gonna keep doing this voice the whole scene, and you don't get it. Okay, now that we're in spoilers, we can talk about, I think, Harley Quinn's full arc and why I think she was wasted. So when she meets Joker, she tells him, I burnt down my parents' apartment building and they checked me in here. And an interesting choice for her is that she's actually a liar, and she didn't. She's some rich girl that lives lives on the east side of Gotham, and she checked herself in. Todd Phillips, that's a great idea for Harley Quinn. And she's barely in this movie. Like, it just feels like she shows up once in a while and just tells Arthur, oh, represent yourself. Like, you're going to do something great. But it doesn't feel like there's anything really complex done with Lady Gaga in this movie. So she checked herself in. But in the first movie, Zazie Beetz' character, I haven't watched the first one since it was in theaters. I've never rewatched it. But Arthur hallucinates a lot of the times they're together, or at least all the positive parts. And she's in this movie as well. She has one scene where she talks at the trial. So I think there is a point in this movie where Harley Quinn becomes hallucinations, other than all of the songs are hallucinated, or the big musical numbers are all hallucinated in Arthur's head. I think towards the end, in the scene where she is sitting in her bedroom and puts the gun to her head, I think she killed herself in that moment. And our last interaction on the Joker staircase between Harley, or Lee, and Arthur, I don't think he really saw her there, and he just hallucinated, and the cops caught him, because that's how the film kind of wraps up towards the end before Arthur Fleck is stabbed in jail. But interesting. I think, I don't know, the whole idea of Harley in this movie is interesting, that she is so obsessed with Arthur Fleck, and she studied psychology in school. I can't remember if she finished her degree or not, but I find at least the idea, and it is something different to do with the Harley Quinn character, that you have her check herself into Arkham because she's such a fanatic and she's like his biggest supporter or whatever. But then it kind of just feels like it fizzles out a little bit and she's put on the back burner. Like, it doesn't feel like there's really any main character to the story even, because it just feels like the characterization of Joker, the characterization of Lee, Harvey Dent, no one is really focused on or picked apart in this movie. Everything that happens is just kind of repeating itself and talking about the symbol of Joker. So I don't know, was she ever there? Is she just like entirely, or what parts were hallucinations with her that weren't the songs? Because I ran into this guy outside of the theater. We were both walking out at the same time. I think he went alone as well, and we just both talked about the movie, that he thought the ending was going to be really divisive, and I agree, but I also think most people will just end up hating the ending, which I'll talk about in a moment. But he was the one that originally pointed out to me, like, oh, which of the scenes do you think Harley was actually in? And I was like, well, she definitely wasn't in that last scene. But another really bad sex scene this year between Arthur and Lee in his jail cell, where she later says, I'm pregnant. Was she ever pregnant? He thinks that maybe she actually wasn't there, but I do think that was real, because it would have to be real, because she later reveals, oh, I'm pregnant or whatever, right? And that's how he gets her to, I don't know, there's just so many interesting theories of like, what parts was she actually there and which parts did he hallucinate? Because the songs are clearly hallucinatory, and I think that staircase scene at the end was clearly not. I'll move on to, the pregnancy and sex scene storyline. I think the whole pregnancy part wasn't really necessary, because even though Arthur knows that she lied to him, it doesn't really seem like he's going to walk away from her, or he's like giving up commitment to her. The sex scene is interesting because it's kind of like she's seducing him even more, but she didn't need to be pregnant, because that doesn't ever really go anywhere. And I guess it was a lie. She did lie about it, but I don't know. It just feels like the whole lying aspect of Harley was interesting at first, but the pregnancy part was kind of out of nowhere and just feels like a nothing storyline. I don't know. I know there's this huge like outrage online that like, the new generation doesn't want sex scenes in movies. It's not like I'm scared of sex scenes or anything. It just felt like the sex scene is fine if you want to add some sexiness to this movie and show that they are physically intimate with each other as well. But the whole baby part was like, the pregnancy lie was just an added point to the script that didn't really need to be there. But let's move on to the Harvey Dent character. I could see this coming a mile away. They were going to give him the Two-Face scar, which they don't even show in this movie. A bunch of Joker fanatics bomb the courthouse and the building blows up, and half of Harvey's face gets scarred and like ripped up. He becomes Two-Face, but we don't even see him. Harvey Dent doesn't have a split personality. He doesn't lose his temper. He's not like bipolar like he usually is, or schizophrenic in the comic books, where he has a split personality and he gets anger issues, and that's why he's called Two-Face. So I don't know. Again, like I said in non-spoilers, the whole Batman aspect and using the characters from Batman's universe and his rogues gallery, completely pointless. Absolutely no point. There's no need for Harvey Dent to be in this movie. They just wanted to use Harvey Dent maybe as like an Easter egg, or be like, no, look everybody, it is in the Batman universe. We have Harvey Dent the lawyer. He barely becomes Two-Face or is ever proven to be Two-Face. So absolute waste of time. Todd Phillips, why, man? Why? But let's talk about the ending, because as I said, this nice man that I was chatting with for probably 10 or 15 minutes after the movie, we were just talking about what we didn't like about the movie, but also we talked about, I don't know, Mickey 17 and Dune, what we think will do well at the Oscars. Oscars, talked about the cinematography of this movie. It was really nice to chat with him. He said that he thinks the ending will be divisive. So, people, if you're not familiar, there is this storyline called Batman 3 Jokers, where it's like 3 eras, or eras, depending how you say it, of Jokers in the comic books. So, the ending of this film, Arthur Fleck is back in jail after he escaped, but then he gets caught by the cops and he's put back in prison, whatever. He gets called that he has a visitor. He's going to see the visitor, and then some guy, this one character that weirdly is just like the camera cuts to him throughout the story and he looks so turned on by Arthur, and it's just like strange choices. At first I thought he was someone that their storyline was getting edited out. Well, I was wrong, because he follows Arthur and says, "Hey Arthur," and when he turns around he stabs him like 7 times in the stomach. Arthur dies in the end of the film, and the other dude slices his mouth like Heath Ledger's Joker. I don't know, is it a reference to the 3 Jokers comic book? Probably, but a very interesting ending. I don't know, I think it's just Todd Phillips being like, yeah, this guy needs to die. We need people to know that Arthur Fleck is a bad dude and deserves to die. I don't know. Or Joaquin Phoenix is like, I'm not making any more of these and I'll come back if you kill me at the end. Maybe that's it. Who knows? I would for sure say there will never be another Joker movie like this, or with Todd Phillips' Joker movie. I think this is the last one. What's the message of these movies? That's what I've really struggled to figure out this week, I think, trying to reflect on this movie and writing my notes. I usually write my notes like the night after I see it or the morning after I see it, and I've really struggled to figure out what is the message of this second film. Is it something to do with like fanatics and the way they'll push their supporters, even if their supporters aren't as committed to the ideas? Is it some commentary on Trump, that like big Trump supporters, maybe he's just kind of a grifter? And I don't know, what is Todd Phillips trying to say with this movie? Because this is one of the most empty, messageless movies I have seen in so long. The first one was incredibly hollow to me and basically was just society bad, society forgets about me, that's it. I don't know, what is the message of this second one? I would love to hear from you guys if you could say, what do you think this message is supposed to be from the second film? Like, yes, mental health, there needs to be more support and infrastructure for mental health resources, of course, but is that the point of the first one, that like the failure to help mental health results in crime? What, I just don't really get, what are we trying to say? And what's the message of the second one? Is it a commentary more on supporters, criminals, symbols, rather than Arthur himself? Because I felt like he really wasn't the focal point of this movie. That's just kind of what I gathered from this. I guess it just feels like a hollow movie where 3 days or 4 days after seeing it, I'm struggling to remember long stretches of what happened to this film because it's just so empty and frustrating. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap up spoilers there. I really don't have that much more to say about Joker Folie. Deux. I would not recommend it. I think it's a movie you can totally skip in theaters. There's way more interesting stuff in theaters right now. Go see Megalopolis instead of this. Like, Megalopolis, it's terrible, but at least it's once in a lifetime terrible. This is just boring and you will be bored in the theater. I saw so many people getting up and going to the bathroom because just straight up, there's so many points where I try not to ever step out of a movie to go to the bathroom. If I had to pee during this movie, I probably would have gotten up and gone because I felt like I wasn't missing anything. That's my official review of Joker Folie Deux, a movie you can pee during. Let's move on to what else I watched. I have tons to talk about in there. Oh man, okay, well, I got a couple of spooky things, I got a couple of Lord of the Rings centered things, some TV shows to catch on, and another movie I saw in the theater. So my girlfriend and I were watching a bunch of spooky season movies. We both really enjoy Halloween movies. So we watched the Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman movie, Practical Magic, which has a classic Croatian actor in it. Pretty good. Like, it's as 1990s as it gets, which I love. Going on Letterboxd and literally every review is just, yeah, this is about as 90s as it gets, like 2 of the biggest actresses of the 90s. It's kind of a fun story about just 2 sisters that were raised by their witch aunts and this island where men can't be happy or married to this witch family because they all die and terrible things happen. And Sandra Bullock's character says when she's a child, the only man I'll ever fall in love with will have like these super unrealistic qualities, and then she meets the man in the movie. It's just really cool, and they kill the abusive ex-boyfriend of Nicole Kidman, but he comes back to life and is haunting everyone. Just like a fun movie. It feels a little bit disjointed, like it feels like 2 separate movies almost, like the first half, second half, but it's fun. Like, if you're looking for maybe not so horror-ish Halloween movies, like just a straight up witch movie or a Halloween movie that doesn't involve a ton of people getting stabbed or beheading and it's not horror, it's more just spooky, I would totally recommend Practical Magic because it was pretty fun and it's quite goofy at points. And what I love most about it is they're just straight up witches. Like, it's just so matter of fact that, yeah, there are witches, they exist, they live on this island. It's not like them proving that they're witches throughout the movie. It's just kind of like a known fact, like, yeah, that family's witches and everybody makes fun of them. I just kind of enjoyed that. But another Halloween movie. We watched John Carpenter's Halloween, 1978, I believe it came out. I loved it. Practical Magic, by the way. I rated it 3 stars. Wasn't terrible, but wasn't mind-changing. Halloween, I have never seen the original John Carpenter Halloween from 1978. I seriously enjoyed it. Like, I find the expectation of Michael popping out was honestly more scary than having him on screen. Like, there's so many scenes where you're just, oh, damn it, he's gonna jump out and it's gonna scare me. And it never really comes. There's only like a few times where he really does do a jump scare, but I kind of appreciate that the movie didn't go for jump scares. Really fun. It's on Amazon. I think if you subscribe to Shudder on Amazon, you can get a month free of Shudder. It's on there. The second one is impossible to find, so we're renting it and we're gonna watch it this weekend before this is released. I'm looking forward to that. I'll give an update on Halloween 2 and maybe 3 next week. But my friends and I, we made some Lego set and built our Dobby Harry Potter sets and watched the Ralph Bakshi 1978 The Lord of the Rings animated movie. So much rotoscope in this, and I have said multiple times I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun and just like goofy. I love the rotoscope animation. It's just hilarious at sometimes. And we followed that up with the Return of the King 1980 animated movie by Jules Bass and Arthur Rankin Jr. I thought that one wasn't as great. I've seen the Hobbit animated movie from a few years before, I believe, and I did prefer the Bakshi Lord of the Rings movie, and I have to say it's maybe like my favorite Lord of the Rings media or like representation or adaptation. I like the movies. They're fine, but they're not my favorite. But I think it's such an interesting idea to be animated, and I think it could fit so many animated things. I actually am probably going to watch the War of Rohirrim that I keep seeing advertised at the movie theater. That kind of looks cool to me. Like, I haven't read any of the Lord of the Rings books. Kind of straight up interested in that. So yeah, they're impossible to find really anywhere to stream, but you can probably rent them, the Lord of the Rings or the Return of the King animated ones. Only Murders in the Building catch up. I didn't get to watch this week's episode, which was episode 6, but I caught up episodes 3 to 5. Season 4 is just so good. I love Zach Galifianakis, Eugene Levy, and Eva Longoria. I think they're such great counterpoints to the original trio. Like, it's just fun to see them and their movie versions. Also this week, The Penguin, episode 2, dynamite. Just as good as the first episode to me. I love that we're going to get the Penguin and Sophia Falcone team up, and I love how Penguin is like working with everyone. I really like that the Maronis, the family, I think they're Persian, of Persian descent or something like that, and I think that's what I saw like on the official wiki or whatever. I just really like the characterizations of everyone. It has great tension. It's constantly just Oz Cobb getting in over his head and being a bit of a goofball, trying to aim for power, and he just like can't explain things. If you haven't watched The Penguin yet and you have HBO, depending where you are in the world, or if you have Crave if you're in Canada, I can't recommend it enough. Like, it's just so goddamn good. But let's talk Survivor 47 episode 3. My winner pick was sent home. Aisha, I think I'm saying it wrong. Asia, she was sent home. My girlfriend has just been rubbing my face in it since we watched it, and I've honestly just been devastated. I can't believe my winner pick was sent home third. So the 2 people this season that I was most excited to watch on the show have gone home in the first 3 episodes. And Rome, oh my god, episode 3, actually, you know what, all 3 episodes Rome has been annoying me like crazy. Him and TK are just so arrogant, but in different ways. Rome is just so high energy, and if I was living with him 24/7, I would go insane. My new winner pick, I honestly have no clue. I think I said Rachel to my girlfriend last night because she was forcing me to, and I think I said Rachel because they've just shown her in like a nice light, especially episode 1. I feel like she got a lot of play, so I really don't know. But I commented this on the Survivor Reddit. I think this is a great season so far. All 3 episodes have focused on the different tribes. All 3 tribes have won challenges. All 3 tribes have gone to tribal council. This is the first season of the new era where the first 3 episodes a different tribe has lost a member. There's no classic unathletic tribe that's just getting, I don't know, just smacked around for the first 5 episodes. All right, finally, before I saw Joker on Monday night, I saw The Wild Robot in IMAX. A great kids movie. I think it's based on a book, or like there's multiple books. Really good. I rated it 4 out of 5. It was really fun. It had me fighting for my life not to tear up at times. I was so choked up. It's a mother and son story. I got sad, but the final third, it felt like there were just multiple endings. Like I kept expecting the movie to end and it just kept going. But hey, if you're a parent or an older sibling, you're looking for something to take a younger child to go see, or if you just like animated movies and kind of fun animated, emotional animated, great voice casting, watch The Wild Robot, because I had a lot of fun with it. I think around Oscar time, there will be conversations about it. There's two really good animated movies right now you could be seeing. You could be seeing Transformers 1 or The Wild Robot. A little bit for everyone. The theaters, so many great choices. Lots of trailers out right now for stuff that's still to come this year. We saw the official Baby Girl trailer with Harris Dickinson and Nicole Kidman. Looks amazing. We saw the Nosferatu trailer. I didn't watch it because I'm happy with the first one. I guarantee you I'll see it in the theaters now that I've said that, but still lots of good stuff to come. That has been what else I watched. And I think that is going to do it for episode 38, Joker, Folie, Deux. Man, two very different bad movies 2 weeks in a row. Megalopolis, I enjoyed how terrible it was, and it was fun to talk about. Joker, Folie, Deux was just frustrating to talk about. As I say every week, please rate, review, share the show, follow us on all of the streamers. If you rate the show 5 stars, drop us a positive review, a 5-star review down below. Share it with your friends, all this good stuff. It helps the show grow. The download numbers for the show have been bumping recently, and I cannot be more grateful. You guys have been so supportive. Thank you so much. But get in touch with the show. Give us a 5-star rating and a review down below. What do you think of Joker, Folie, Deux? What did you think of Megalopolis? Did you see The Wild Robot? What TV shows are you watching? What are you binging right now? What's your favorite Halloween movie or show, whether it's like Treehouse of Horror or whatever? We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Acast, wherever you get your good podcasts, we are there. We are also on YouTube, though. Go on the YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment if you're here right now. What did you think of Joker? What are you looking forward to in the rest of the year? What are your 5 most anticipated movies for the rest of the year? What's your Oscar nomination predictions right now, if you had to guess? I would love to hear from you all. You can also get in touch with the show via email, watcherofallthings@gmail.com. You can get in touch with me there or on the social medias. Why don't you follow us all there? TikTok, it's watcher.of.all.things. Go get in touch with me on TikTok. I post tons of stuff there. I'm going to post a Walmart movie haul, which you may have seen now that this is out on the Monday. We are also on Instagram and Threads. The username is the same on both of those, @watcherofallthings. Follow me on all of the social medias, as well as my personal Letterboxd account, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me on the Letterboxd. See where Joker, Folie, Deux ranks in my 2024 ranked list. All that good stuff linked below. Rate, review, like, subscribe, wherever you get this. Leave us a positive comment or a positive review if you hated Joker. If you loved it, I would love to hear why you loved it as well. I love to hear a different opinion. Next week, Saturday night, and We Live in Time. It's going to be a double header next week, so look forward to that. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you're enjoying the fall so far. I hope you go to the Walmart movie bins and just go nuts, go crazy. Thank you all so much for listening. I will see you in the next one.